Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got a lot to cover because there are some major changes in the weather forecast that you need to know about. Over the next few days, two big winter storms are going to sweep across the United States, bringing a mix of heavy snowfall, ice, freezing rain, and even thunderstorms to some unexpected areas. We're talking about impacts stretching from the southern plains and Gulf Coast all the way to the southeast and northeast. If you live in any of these areas, or if you're planning to travel, this is one of those forecasts you absolutely don't want to miss. So let's break it all down. Starting with today, there's already plenty of moisture streaming in from the Gulf of Mexico, and it's making its way into the southeastern U.S. Right now, this is causing scattered showers and thunderstorms across parts of central and northern Florida, and we can't rule out the possibility of an isolated tornado. There's just enough wind shear in the atmosphere to create a small but notable tornado threat. So if you're in Florida tonight or tomorrow morning, keep an eye on your local weather alerts. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Meanwhile, up in the Northeast, we've been seeing some light showers and snow over northern New England, but nothing major, at least not yet. This is just the calm before the storm because things are going to ramp up dramatically starting tomorrow afternoon. Nor'easter is set to form off the coast, and this is going to be a quick but intense winter storm. Let's talk about what's coming for the Northeast. By tomorrow afternoon, moderate to heavy snow will begin falling across parts of northern Virginia, eastern Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey as a low pressure system strengthens offshore. The snow is going to be wet and heavy, which means it will accumulate quickly. By the evening hours, the snow will spread into southern and central New England, including major cities like Boston. The heaviest snow is expected to fall during the late afternoon and evening hours, and some areas could see up to a foot of snow before it's all said and done. By tomorrow night, the snow will start to taper off in most areas, but not before leaving widespread totals of 4 to 8 inches across much of the region. Some spots, like northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, and western Massachusetts, could see closer to 12 inches. As the storm moves out, lake effect snow will kick in around Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, bringing even more snow to parts of northwestern Pennsylvania and western New York. Those areas could easily see an additional 6 to 12 inches of snow by Monday morning. Now, while the Northeast deals with that, another storm is already gearing up to make its presence felt in the southern plains and Gulf Coast. Late Monday into early Tuesday, we're expecting a rare winter storm to develop in these regions. What's fueling this storm is a combination of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and energy diving in from the Rockies. When these two systems collide, it's going to set the stage for significant snowfall, sleet, and freezing rain in places that don't typically see winter weather. Let's talk specifics. Starting late Monday night, light to moderate snow will begin falling across parts of Texas and Oklahoma. For most of Oklahoma and northern Texas, we're not expecting major accumulations, just a dusting to maybe an inch in some areas. But as the storm intensifies and moves southeast, the snowfall totals are going to climb. By Tuesday morning, cities like Houston could see 1 to 3 inches of snow, while parts of central and southern Louisiana are looking at 4 to 6 inches. Some localized areas could even get closer to 8 or 9 inches, depending on how the storm evolves. The Gulf Coast is going to see some truly unusual winter weather. New Orleans, for example, could end up with 3 to 5 inches of snow, which is almost unheard of for that area. By Tuesday night into Wednesday, the snow and ice will spread into southern Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. We're talking about 2 to 4 inches of snow in many areas, with higher amounts possible in localized spots. And then there's Florida. Yes, even northern Florida could see snow from this storm. Cities like Tallahassee and Jacksonville are in the zone for a mix of freezing rain and snow. If the ice accumulates, it's going to make travel incredibly dangerous, especially since roads in these areas aren't treated for winter weather. Schools and businesses may close. So if you live in northern Florida, start preparing now. By Wednesday morning, the storm will push into the Carolinas, bringing snow and ice to places like Charlotte, Raleigh, and even the Outer Banks. Snowfall totals in the Carolinas could range from 3 to 6 inches, with some areas seeing even more. From there, the storm will move up the East Coast, potentially bringing more snow to parts of Virginia, Maryland, and the Mid-Atlantic. So what are we looking at in terms of total snowfall? Along the Gulf Coast, areas like Houston can expect 1 to 3 inches, while southern Louisiana and Mississippi are looking at 4 to 6 inches, with some spots nearing 8 or 9 inches. In the southeast parts of Georgia, Alabama, and the Carolinas could see 3 to 6 inches, with higher totals in the northern parts of the states. And in northern Florida, it's going to be a sharp dividing line between snow, ice, and rain. But cities like Tallahassee could see up to 2 inches of snow, while Jacksonville may get a mix of freezing rain and light snow. For the Northeast, snowfall totals are expected to be in the 4 to 8-inch range for most areas, with some localized spots like northeastern Pennsylvania and northern New Jersey seeing up to a foot. Boston and southern New England will see significant snow as well. But areas closer to Cape Cod may deal with freezing rain, which could make travel especially hazardous. As we go through the day, we're going to see off and on snow showers impacting places like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and up into upstate New York. These snow showers aren't going to be continuous, but we're going to see some decent snow accumulation, especially where there's lake-enhanced snow. Places near the Great Lakes, Buffalo, for example, could get a pretty good amount of snow from this. It's not going to be anything catastrophic just yet, but it will definitely make travel a bit tricky. And then while all this snow is coming down in the north, we're going to see some heavy rain in the south, down in the panhandle of Florida, parts of southern Alabama and Georgia. We're expecting a lot of rain. Now, the other big thing to mention is that there's a marginal risk for severe weather today, which means we could see some isolated strong storms. The risk isn't super widespread, but it's something to keep an eye on, especially if you're in these areas. Keep an ear out for warnings as they come in and stay weather aware. It doesn't look like we're going to see anything too intense, but severe weather is definitely possible. So while the snow is falling in the northeast and rain's coming down in the south, we're keeping a close eye on something even bigger brewing in the forecast, an Arctic blast. Yes, you heard me right. This Arctic air mass is about to slam into the United States. It's going to meet up with leftover energy and moisture from the rainstorm we're tracking today. And that's when things really start to get interesting. This is going to set the stage for our next major winter storm. By Sunday morning, you're going to see snow showers start to push into places like Little Rock. These snow showers are going to get more intense as we move through the day, spreading up into Memphis, Nashville, and even Lexington, Kentucky. It's not going to be a widespread snowstorm at first, but as the storm develops, the snow is going to fill in more and more. By Sunday afternoon, the snow will start to intensify and spread into the mid-Atlantic, and that's when we're going to see some real heavy snow. If you're in Pittsburgh, Charleston, West Virginia, or Washington, D.C., expect to see some heavy snow by 10 a.m. on Sunday. The snow will gradually move east, and by the time we hit Sunday afternoon, Washington, D.C., we'll be buried, and so will cities like Philadelphia, New York City, and possibly Boston by the evening hours. Now, here's the tricky part. The snow is not going to be a simple all-snowstorm. As it moves into the I-95 corridor, especially along the coast, we're going to see that typical rain-to-snow mix. Places like Washington, D.C., Baltimore, New York City, and even Philadelphia could see a mess of rain, sleet, and snow depending on where the storm sets up that rain-snow line. This is going to be a difficult forecast to pinpoint. But as of now, I think it's safe to say that areas from New Jersey up through Massachusetts are going to see the heaviest snow, and inland areas will likely pick up 3 to 6 inches of snow. Some spots could even see 4 to 8 inches as the snow really starts to come down fast. Areas along the coast, like New York City and Philadelphia, are probably going to see a little less, maybe 2 to 4 inches, but the heavy snow will fall fast and could cause some serious travel disruptions. Let's talk about some travel impacts, because this storm is going to create some problems, especially in the Northeast. The snow is going to come down fast and it's going to be heavy. That means travel could get really tricky, especially in areas like New York City, eastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, Connecticut, and parts of Massachusetts. New York City and the surrounding areas are probably going to experience delays, and we could see some real traffic headaches. Luckily, this storm is hitting over weekend, so the weekday commute won't be as bad as it could be, but Monday morning could be a real mess. If you have to drive anywhere, be prepared for slick roads and some serious delays. But hold on, because this storm isn't just about the snow. It's cold. It's going to be the real story. Once the storm moves out of the Northeast, it's going to leave behind some of the coldest temperatures we've seen in years. We're talking about Arctic air sweeping in from the north. This cold air is going to settle over the eastern United States, and temperatures are going to plummet. We can see lows as low as 3 degrees in parts of Ohio by Wednesday. Over in central Pennsylvania, we're looking at temperatures right around zero, and in places like Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, we're talking about lows in the 10 to 15 degree range. And it's not just the air temperature that's going to be cold. The wind chill is going to make it feel even colder. In cities like Cincinnati, you're looking at lows near 3 degrees by Wednesday morning. In Indianapolis, it could be around 8 degrees, and Chicago will likely see temperatures around 0 or slightly below that. But the really brutal cold is going to settle in across the northern plains. North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, where temperatures could dip into the negative 20s for lows, and highs will only make it to negative teens or low 20s. This is Arctic air that even the northern states aren't used to seeing. If you're in those areas, be prepared for some seriously cold conditions. Okay. Now, we've talked about the Northeast and the brutal cold, but the real twist in the forecast is what's happening down south. As the Arctic air sinks into the U.S., it's going to clash with the warm Gulf moisture, and that's going to lead to a major winter storm in the south. Southeastern Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. These are the areas that could see something we haven't seen in years. The moisture from the Gulf is going to fuel a storm system. And by Tuesday, it's likely going to start snowing in places like Houston and Dallas. At first, it'll be a mix of rain and snow. But as the system strengthens, we're going to see freezing rain and snow spread across much of the South. This storm could bring snow as far south as Mobile, Alabama, and New Orleans. Yes, New Orleans. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a very real possibility. The storm is going to bring freezing rain and snow to the Gulf Coast, and in areas like the Carolinas could see some of the heaviest. We're even looking at the potential for freezing rain as far south as Tampa. While it's not likely that it will freeze that far south, it's still a possibility. So it's something to keep an eye on. And let me tell you, the South is simply not built for this kind of weather. The roads aren't prepared for snow, and the power grid is not built to handle ice storms. If we do get significant snow or ice in these areas, it's going to cause major disruptions, especially with travel. Right now, the forecast is calling for major snow and ice accumulations in parts of South Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas. So if you're in these areas, it's time to prepare. Get that generator ready, stock up on supplies, and make sure you have a plan in case the power goes out. This could turn into a multi-day event, and temperatures are going to stay cold, which means any power outages could last for an extended period. And here's the kicker. It's not just the snow and ice we have to worry about. The cold will linger, and that's going to make everything worse. So if you lose power during the storm, it could get really uncomfortable really quickly. The time to prepare is now. Make sure you have a plan for staying warm if the power goes out, and make sure you're ready for what could be a major winter storm in the South. Here's a look at the European model showing the likelihood of seeing more than 3 inches of snow by Wednesday, January 22nd. If you're in areas like South Louisiana or the Gulf Coast, you're in the 60, 70 range for snow totals over 3 inches. This is a huge deal for these areas, so don't take it lightly. All right, that's all for today's update. If you're in the path of these storms, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so you don't miss any updates. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Stay safe, stay prepared, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.